Good afternoon. Welcome to our first slam poetry event. And I need to talk to you just for a minute about the slam part of slam poetry. I don't know about you, but when I was an English student back in the 50s, 60s, our English teachers occasionally would play a recording of W.H. Auden or one of the great poets. And the poems were delivered in a flat monotone. And that was, as a kid, that was my impression, that you're supposed to pay attention to the words. But the slam poetry movement is more theatrical. The idea of slam is that you perform the poem. A poem is a shot at the heart. A poem is an attempt to hit people, make them feel something. Otherwise, you could write an essay or a newspaper column. And so what I'm going to encourage you to do is whatever the particular emotional package that you've got in your heart in your poem, try and get the rest of us to feel that with the delivery. So you're not just going to read your poem, but try to project the thing and get us to feel what you were feeling when you wrote it. What do you want us to feel from this thing in addition to what you want us to know? And that's, in essence, that's what it is, slam poetry. And you can go online and find some really neat slam poets. I worked with a fellow named Taylor Molley, who was one of the founders of the slam poetry movement, and learned a lot from him. And so I'm awfully glad we're doing this. I'm going to share a kind of an angry poem at the beginning, and then come around at the very end with something, I hope, with a little more grace in it. In 1993, Yugoslavia fell apart. And the Bosnians, the Muslim population located between the Serbs on one side and the Croats on the other, wound up being massacred in the middle. And I was struck by a photograph that I saw of an elderly woman with a neckerchief dressed in black, and she's holding a skull and crying with it pressed against her cheek because it's her son. A human rights group has come in and discovered a mass grave and is exhuming it and trying to connect families with what had been lost. And so I wrote this poem for her. It's called Bosnian Spring. The snow is melted into the earth and brought up out of the ground, furrowed ground, stinking black earth turned up with a spade. Humid earth turned up in long furrows, our sons. It's early this year for flies, but then this year has been upside down, for this is the time for planting, for sowing the seeds in long secret rows under the black furrowed earth, and covering, not uncovering, what has been put into the ground. Who should have a harvest in spring, taking life out of the ground, taking our sons out of the ground? For this was my son, my handsome son, dropped like fruit, lifted like grain from the harvest of my youth in the planting of my life. This was my son, whom I fed from the fountain of my body in the springtime of my life, and rocked in my arms, and sang and crooned and promised love and protection, that I would lay down my body, lay down my life before him, if death so much as noticed him or heard his name. Now look at him, look what they've done to him. This was my son, the fruit of my love, the hope of my future. I can't speak to you, can't speak. Tell the man with the cameras to go away. Tell him to go to hell. Where were you when my son had life? Where were you when he was helpless and afraid? Where were you when he was murdered? You want my face, you son of a bitch? Where are the faces of the men who killed my son? You only witness what you want, but I am a witness to everything. I tell you, he was a beautiful man. Who will bury me now that he is gone? Who will be left to mourn? Why has God given us so much life if we were not supposed to live it? The life I have left I do not want. Who should have a harvest in spring, taking life out of the ground when there is only dust in the eyes of my son? 1993. Please make some noise for Diane Brooke. that down a little bit?
Yeah, can I just tip it?
There's a little trick right here. And then it should drop. There you go.
Okay.
Is that good?
Yeah, I guess so. Can you hear me? Well, Larry gave a very beautiful poem, and mine is pretty different. So, who is that woman in the mirror? She looks familiar, but there are lines around her eyes and by her mouth. Where did the other one go? The one with smooth skin and no mustache, the young one. Only the eyes are still the same. They're still wide with wonder at the world and its beauty. This new woman is heavier. She's dowdy looking. I see her in glass doors coming toward me. It's with a start of surprise I realize who she is. I look carefully, but there's no slim sprite behind. The image I carry inside is at variance with the reality that even I can see. I can still feel her there, the young one, but I can't find her in the mirror.
Glenn Dowden.
Good evening. I'm the facilitator for If You Want to Be a Poet at ALL. We have some of the poets here, wonderful group. We're having a lot of fun. I came to this country in 1975. I've been writing poetry all that time. I have 2 books of poetry. I'm working on my 3rd. I have book of memoirs, book of short stories, book of essays, a detective novel, and I'm working on 2 other books at the moment. I'm going to read 2 poems, and I've changed the title of the first poem. The title now is Forget the Second Amendment. But this poem was written in anger and shame. So you can imagine what the real title is. Begins with F. Arms, legs, clutching fingers, split skulls, crayons, cartoons, books, backpacks, sneakers from t-shirts, torn t-shirts, whimpers, screams, moans, bloodied bodies, walls, ceiling and floor, smell of sulfur, burnt flesh, piss and shit, cries of terror, horror, anger, sorrow, grief and loss. How to mourn a child, all dreams expunged, nurtured love now dust, a hole never to be filled. The pain always to remain. Beat your fists on the ground. Hope and trust has disappeared. God rejected. The voice in your head says life is dead. Who are they? Who are you? Too much to bear. Their voices remain while others fall like stalks of corn in a field of stones. Fading photos. Thoughts and prayers mean nothing. A presence lingers. The voice never goes away as I crawl in and out of bed, broken, not blessed, to face another day. This second poem is lighter than that, and it's about a street performer. I was watching him on YouTube. He's a Polish guy, and I thought, well, I can write a poem about this. It's called Buskin. Singing in the street, 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 dancing with my feet, 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 standing in the rain, taking on the pain. You gotta make it fast, fast, fast. Gotta make it last, last, last. On the street, beep, beep. Turning on a light, light, light. Putting up a fight, fight, fight. Hustle in the night, gotta get it right. Brighter than a star, star, star. No matter who you are, I love ya. Beep, beep. Play a song for boys, play a song for girls. Tats on their cheeks, tats on their arse. Pearls pierced ears, bone through her nose. Queers have the heat, heat, heat. It's Friday. Beep, beep. Standing on the street, street, street. Singing in the rain, rain, rain. Standing here alone. Echoes are my own. Beep, beep. Thank you very much.
Please welcome June Callender.
I write poetry because of ALL. I hadn't written poetry, not really, until I joined So You Want to Be a Poet about 12, 13 years ago, and have been doing it ever since, with varying degrees of success. The first one I'm going to read is called Scars. Scars. Everyone is scarred. The cuts, scratches, scrapes of learning to walk, run, be a kid. Boo-Boo's mama made better with a kiss. A finger or a fist in the mouth, spit stopped the blood, cooled the burn. Scars are brands of healing. We may forget what caused this hurt, or we may never forget the fall, the fire, the fight, the knife that slipped, the scissors that snipped. To live is to accumulate scars. Also, scars on the heart that feels kinds of pain that the brain files thoughtless, cruel, angry words, the deaths we caused or watched, relatives, pets, bugs, prey, friends, tears like spit cauterize. Memory scars are tripwires, a place, a name, a scent, a song, a gate, the voice, a poem, a dream. Time is a swab of sharpened sword, or a sharpened sword, or hardened and metastasized. Life brings more rejections, losses, failures. Finally, wisdom. Scars remain, our personal petroglyphs. The other one is something that keeps coming up. The secret to reaching 100. Interviewers often ask those with enough breath to blow out all those candles, and they answer. And the answers vary. Walk a mile a day. Have a stiff drink at 5. Take a teaspoon of fish oil, olive oil, each morning. Don't give up your cigarettes. Practice deep breathing morning and night. Sassafras tea, green tea, drink only red wine. Get born with good genes. Say your prayers every night. Get 8 hours of sleep every night. Never go to bed angry. Eat only food you grew in your own garden. Drink only water from your artesian well. The advances of modern medicine. Laugh every day. Playing my fiddle, my bagpipe, my accordion every day. The shaman, the sauna, St. Teresa. Grandma's medicinal for herbs. Live where the air is clear. damned if I know. Someone up there is looking out for me. All possibly true, but no definitive answer. More answers. Resistance, resilience, recreation, read the Bible. Pray, good karma, good chi, a guardian angel, yoga, tai chi, qigong, Zen meditation. Think about it all you want, or not at all. Just don't drop dead yet.
Of animals.
So I have two poems.
Come closer to the mic.
I have two poems, and the first one is called Clothesline. I'd like to dedicate this reading to Florence Coombs, my fourth grade teacher, whose homework assignment every weekend was to go home and write a story. Clothesline. The laundry has been released from the prison of the dryer. They're turning over and over with a whump and a thump, released into the sharp spring air, restrained only by clothespins. Pant legs kick up their heels, shirts do handstands in the sun, sheets flap and snap. At last, they say, we soaked up the fresh scent of ozone. Take us down now and bring us indoors. Put us on and go out into the sparkling world. And this one's called Thanksgiving. A white turkey comes to my yard every morning lately, browsing in the grass, cleaning up under the bird feeder, often accompanied by a splendid tom who puffs himself up and fans his tail. She's mine, all mine, don't even think it, to any other would-be suitors. She is an eye-catcher among her brown sisters, who shuffle along, beaks to the ground. In the fall, turkeys cross my street in great flocks, stopping the impatient idling cars that sigh their annoyance. Someone doing work here thought she was a domestic turkey, escaped into the wilds of my neighborhood. That seems likely, but I prefer what the landscaper said, that she is magical and will bring good fortune to me and my household. Oh, magical bird, bless us all with your white presence. Like a dove of the earth, bring us peace, bring us love and compassion for our fellow man.
John Kennedy. And please say your name when you get up there. Apparently my voice is not strong enough on the mic, so when you come up, please identify yourselves too. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I also have two poems. And the first course that I ever took at ALL was in the fall semester of 2003. The coordinator was Fred Peck, and it was called Writings from the Past, the 40s, 50s, and 60s. What Fred wanted class members to do was to write an essay about their recollections of one of those decades. Well, I wrote some essays, but I also wrote one poem. And this being National Poetry Month, I think it's somewhat appropriate. The title of the poem is Wistful Thinking.
Would that I could write like Whitman, or had some of Emily's magic. If that were true, I'd scribble lines about the sad or mad or tragic, or what it was that made me laugh, way back when my hair was brown, back when Elvis wiggled his hips and Mantle won the Triple Crown. Would that Frost's muse would visit me. I'd tell you about how young Jack was almost Adelaide's running mate, but 4 years later would come back. I'd write of Sputnik and of how the Russians beat us into space, how 9 black teens in Little Rock stood up to angry mobs with grace. Mr. Sandberg, lend me your pen. There's something that I want to tell my boomer offspring and their young about the car called the Incel, and how the movies tried to fight the cultural icon called TV. CinemaScope had some impact. Noble but fruitless was 3D. Video's lineup was too strong. Lucy, Milty, and Bishop Sheen. Welk, the Rifleman, and Gunsmoke too. Hollywood and Envy turned quite green. The Giants Colts, a classic match. Chet and Dave gave the evening news. And late night shows were such a rage, we found excuses not to snooze. With Ogden Nash's words and wit, there's someone I would like to roast. Walter O'Malley and his clan took our dear bums to the West Coast. Their rivals quickly followed suit, left Coogan's Bluff, went to the Bay. My blood still boils at the idea they're wearing Dodger blue in L.A. I wonder how Poe would describe the heart attack that laid Ike low, or what he'd say about the night Jack Parr got up and left his show. I wish that Kilmer were alive when Larson pitched his perfect game. He would have written of that feat to put in ways that to put most scribes to shame. But I don't have their priceless gift, the art of crafting a great rhyme. So please excuse this poor attempt to tell you of another time, the decade before Camelot, before we landed on the moon, before Vietnam, before the pill, before children aged all too soon. This is a quickie. I wrote it in the early 90s, and it's dedicated to someone very special to me. It's called Testimonial. For a while there, several months, maybe more, I was having trouble getting up in the morning and putting on my tarnished armor and unfurling my tattered pennants. The armor's really beat up, and the pennants, forget them. They've been dragged in the mud so often that washing or dry cleaning won't help. Besides, they're so threadbare, the dirt is probably what's holding them together. I keep hoping that Macy's will have a sale. I'd managed to drag myself into the bathroom where I'd have a losing argument with the mirror. The geriatric hippie that looked back at me seemed so pathetic. I wondered what other aging paladins were thinking and doing. It was getting so that I'd almost decided to let someone else find the Holy Grail. Then I met you.
DJ Foley.
Good afternoon. I'm DJ Foley, and I'm one of Glenn Dowden's So You Want to Be a Poet. And I'm going to read today about what inspires me. What inspires? I love the explosion of sunset, corals, cobalts, violets, through clouds on the horizon. Complete stillness on the lake at dawn. Highlight buffleheads, white and black, upend their pointy tails. Woods music, owls hoot, doves coo, woodpeckers knock, crows caw, coyotes sing, turkeys gobble, fanning plumage, trees shush, water laps. Tides rush, waves rise, foam bubbles, rips threaten, rain thrashes, light slashes, dabbles, glares, blinds, illuminate thoughts. Gray dusk, night falls, moon rises, soft starlight, twinkling galaxies remind us of our place in space. My second poem is Passing Through. Just passing through on my way to forever, blending in, taking part, making friends, trying to find my way to forever, touching base, keeping up, looking around, noting everything, missing nothing, loving life.
Walter Ralston, please. I'm sorry, Diane Hannah.
Hi, everybody. I'm not used to these lights. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm lucky enough to be in Glenn's ALL class, and my name is Diane Hannah. If you don't mind, I would like to read 3 short poems, because for me, poetry is found in the ordinary, in the things that we don't really notice because they're just part of the landscape. So my first poem, I was in Marshall's. I was shopping, and I found these beautiful bars of lavender soap all wrapped in this lovely paper. So this is actually a poem about soap. A cappella. I buy lavender soap made in Firenze by Italian grandmothers wearing hairnets, black cardigans, thick stockings. They stir a vat of boiling oil stewed with rosemary, lavender, and fat of lambs. Hair straying loose, their eyes suggest rain. The grandmothers imagine lying with Pavarotti in a big bed somewhere in Barbados. Wax candles melt in the night. The great tenor sings of honey and egg yolks, of all things golden. Bellissima, bellissima, he sweats the words like molten tears, clutches his damp handkerchief. The grandmothers sigh in unison, dreaming of peaches. I don't want you to think I spend my life shopping, but also this. I was in line at the Stop and Shop, and I don't know, I just happened to look down at my shoes. The poem, it's called Doc Martens. It took time to break them in, 3 weeks in Paris, 4 in Boston, a year around the neighborhood. Pinching, squeaking, blistering, they sloshed through puddles, squashed on bubble gum, or worse, slogged through snow, became familiar with worms, tar, slippery slopes, muddied, scuffed, soaked. The docks never once faltered. Won their right to accompany taffeta skirts, sneer at those silly ballerina flats, stomp into hushed libraries, ask to be worn in bed with pearls and little else. No possible taming of this comeuppance with polish, organdy laces, banishment to the closet. A lust for horizons, slush and cobblestone, an impulsion to venture is stitched into their wholly irreverent soul. Thank you. And finally, I'm in the kitchen now, and I have a wonderful pair of kitchen scissors. I can't open things without them, you know, when you're supposed to just pull on the dotted line. Well, it never works for me. So this is a poem about the kitchen scissors called Sundry Appetites. Kitchen scissors yearn for their alter ego, the handsome nightjar, romantic, dangerous, oft misunderstood. His spear-sharp throat hungers for thorns, soup cans, streaming necks of iris, flesh of fish, fowl, finger. When a house sighs into sleep, the nightjar escapes his dark kitchen, flies with blind red eye, black bat wingspan, ever open mouth, swallowing whole the wind, and all futile, fluttering things, moths, fireflies, fragments of leaf, petal. Home at daybreak, he nestles in the pocket of a frilly, capricious apron, regains his normal relish for crunch of cereal box, munch of broccoli floret, bite of newborn chive, becomes his original self, well-worn kitchen scissors, dependable as a teaspoon, ordinary as a spatula, licking cream. Thank you all.
You'd think by my age I could count, but I skipped Bill Holcomb. Bill? Number 7. This is the one I got, and when I got it, my first thought was Mickey Mantle, who was mentioned in a prior poem. And when I was young and Mickey Mantle hit a home run, there was very little separation between his home run and me hitting a home run. I want to devote this reading to my best friend from undergraduate school, who's no longer with us. His name is Mike Martin, and you'll hear more about him in my second poem. But if, for those of you who know me, I had to bring at least one screed political fit of pique frustration poem. So this one is called The Once and No Longer Great American Pickup Truck. I mourn for the small utility pickup truck. They've taken them away, won't make them anymore. Now we have bigger, not better, every year bigger and bigger profit margins. The yahoos marry cost accountants and greed wins. One day, a truck ran me down, moreover nudged my little car, an apparition, something from a dystopian movie set out in military gray, all angles, as though it strove to morph into stealth bomber avoiding radar.
Why not mount 50 caliber machine guns on the front, a gunner turret in the back, there's plenty of room, and be done with it? On a walk, a Jeep approaches, way too fast, military green, huge lawnmower mounted on top with outsized American flag rippling from the rear. What chauvinistic jingo jangle, flag-wrapping, spread eagle, neo-Nazi, Neanderthal, brown-shirted, lunk-headed lunatics want these $70,000 beasts to carry their light tools and their AR-15s anyway? Okay. This is called Encomium for Mike Martin. Mike, I'm just a ghost, a whisper, left behind, limping around, all the other old people living on Cape Cod, pushing carts around parking lots in search of the right cup of coffee or the right chair in the clinic's waiting room. While you have taken your last breath, have left us, have gone off, gone out into wherever we go, which still puzzles my sophomoric curiosity, in which we wallowed, like, quote, the pig reveling in the mud, to quote your old friend Heraclitus. You and those classics you read, you knew, you read in Latin or Greek, you were a classic. Whatever being and nothingness awaits your friends left here in this bodily pain-ridden miraculous gift of each day, you taught me so much early on, when we still repelled each other, just before we loved each other. Everything happened so fast in those days. You, the dandy, dancing around with women and poets, while my early college days on the courts and fields and early disciplined classrooms, library, so completely opposed to your procrastinatory living, gazing, grazing, waiting, finally plunging into submission, all-nighter, all-weekender, carrying mattresses up to Sibley Hall, crazed architecture, student madness. Madness the key. All the madness in my body, buried deep below my straight Dutch avoidance denial system. No risky fire-eating drugs, drinking, dancing, women's song for me, not for a few more weeks and months before your persistent, insistent, relentless suasion took me into consciousness, bending joys of all-night revelry, all-night vocabulary, streams of Kerouac, Snyder, Ginsberg's, boxcars, what did I know? How could I know how limited my education had been till you started using all those words? Obsequious, parsimonious, abstemious, you old pedantic snob fob, you, all in context, nary forced, that velvet underground tongue of yours, the gift that got all the girls there were to get. Well, I couldn't manage the slightest clue on how to talk to girls, how to write poetry, how to drink and dance and drink some more in ways that commanded respect for such excess, that love could be articulated and needed to be articulated. That mute male John Wayne football coach world of mine, rejected, had a flourishing alternative universe full of wine, full of rock and roll and jazz and classics, music. You playing boogie-woogie piano into those wee hours, like those boxcars rolling through Wichita that you brought me to. Who knew we could fly like those beats, like all those others metaphorically anyway, in our own ways, discovering something, discovering the ecstasy of the self, of each other, of possibility. I need an ending, some way to end this. Your end ended, and my end in sight. We had some times, even those last few years, every so often we'd get together one last time, driving you down to LaGuardia, rocking out to David Byrne, whooping it up in the car all the way down like the old times, to your good wife to cart you back on the plane, the wreck you had become, and the wreck I have become. We'll be along in time short, enough to join you perhaps in that last great unknowable that gets us all of us, that I don't want yet, that the not you has been delivered to. How could all of this have gone by so fast, Mike? Goodbye, my old friend. I loved you and miss you and hope and trust wherever you aren't. Whatever's left of those cells, those emanations in the ether, still dance and rejoice ecstatic, knowing not just peace, but some swerve, some crazy jump up into that void, that no place, that finality. Goodbye, Mike.
Walter Ralston, come on up.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Walter Alston, and I'm a recovering academic. I'm also relatively new to poetry, probably first making any efforts at it about 15 years ago. I'm torn in looking at the poetry, the difference between the experience that we have with our eyes as we read a page, as opposed to the experience that we have with our ears when words flow by and are gone. I don't know what to do with the difference, but it is different. And maybe I'm revealing the fact that I'm still a geek. Excuse me. These are short. Reverence. They kneel before her, having sensed her stirrings. With reverence, they slowly begin to remove her too numerous stalks. Any remaining blossoms are snipped just above the second bud. Duff that prevents sunlight from reaching her crown is removed. This act is performed in the hope she will become happier, more fulsome, becoming pleasing to their heart and eye. The octogenarian attendants have just returned from a class on pruning hydrangeas. Thank you. And that was called reverence. This next one is called a cape cycle. From the closet come Pendletons, Violas, flannels, wools, all long-sleeved. From hooks and hangers in the cloakroom are removed scarves, gloves, mittens, caps, vests, a barber jacket. Trudge, trudge, trudge up the steep stairs to the spare closet, where await the Rain Spooners, the Tory Richards, Brooks Brothers, short-sleeved, cotton, linen, blended summer shirts. From storage also come those cuffy t-shirts, shorts of all sorts, and socks. The boot room must surrender its trove of veggies, beer, wine, and mixes. It's no longer cool there. Now from the garage comes the lawn furniture, shade umbrella, screens for the front porch windows, a wooden mat, and barn door style closure for our outdoor shower. Meanwhile, Old Soul is rising higher and longer in his realm, energizing the earth to release snowdrops, grape hyacinths, crocuses, daffodils, rhododendron buds swell, hydrangea crowns send up their shoots, trees flower, and then commence their solar panel deployment program. Why is beauty so prominent? Why does my heart sing? A cape cycle. I'm going to do one more. This is called To the Mat. The bath mat battle is engaged once every 2 weeks when our house cleaner arrives. Our toilet is located just next to the double vanity. 3 steps away is the shower. After mopping the bathroom floor, our cleaner restores items to their proper position. From her perspective, The mat belongs properly halfway between the sink and the shower. My muse and I prefer to center the mat at the toilet. Our perspective is not from the bathroom doorway, but from occupying that porcelain throne. Thus it is that the battle is once again engaged. To the mat.
Wayne Miller, come on up.
My name is Wayne Miller. I'm also a member of Glenn's crowd. I'm going to read 4 short poems that go backward in time. We're going to start with death. The Entrance to Heaven, Eulogy for a Poet. This was written for Peter Saunders. The entrance to heaven is not a pair of pearly gates or a rostrum where St. Peter bellows a list of your sins in apoplectic ancient Aramaic. The entrance to heaven is a large room like the meeting hall of a Masonic lodge. But instead of furniture you don't quite understand, there are rows of work tables covered in clean white cloth. Behind each table stands a group of Old Testament prophets whose job it is to assess the value of your life. They do this by emptying the contents of your mind onto the tabletop, the way you might dump out a carpenter's bag and watch tape measures and plumb bobs and lock washers go all over the place. Being punishers, they make quick work of emperors and demagogues, but they are easily confused by poets. I would love to see the look on Habakkuk or Jeremiah's face when your stuff stops rolling around. Moving forward in time, your obituary. These are words that will appear in your obituary. 4 a.m., fashion risk, muscatel, subway grate, woodpecker, dumpster fire, Doberman, cheese. If you wish to make changes, do it now. This is where time makes the U-turn. Einstein. She is reading by window light. Her hair is gray. No, her hair is black, and her laugh is the same as it was in Philadelphia and New York and that summer island so many years ago. Her hair is black because Einstein was right about time, the way it folds back on itself, for those lucky enough to see it. And finally, we're kids again. This poem is called Koalas Smell Like Chewing Gum. This is an homage to L.M. Boyd, the old-time newspaper columnist. Koalas smell like chewing gum. None of his words have sharp edges. They're smooth, rounded like used bars of soap. They sound like they're coming out of his nose. He's got a thick tongue, people say. Old man Feeney's got a thick tongue. Thick tongue, my neck. He's got a thick head. Old man Feeney is crazy. He thinks koalas smell like chewing gum, that monkeys in Bangladesh glow in the dark, that porpoises swim in circles when they sleep, that kangaroos cough when they're scared. He told the Schlossberg sisters that Andrew Jackson was the only president who believed the world was flat. He says you don't weigh as much when the moon is full. He told them Confucius grew roses. He says Donald Duck is a mallard. Little Dickie Gallagher won't go near his house after the old man told him that a lunar eclipse would be a solar eclipse if we all lived on the moon. Well, maybe roosters do crow at dawn, and maybe the Incas ate popcorn, maybe some African elements really are purple, and maybe Ben Franklin wore swim fins. But I still think the old man's crazy to believe that stuff just because he read it in a newspaper. Thank you.
I would like to give you an introduction, please, first. I spent 6 years in the Army, and when I graduated or finished AIT and boot camp, I joined for 6 years and suffered a traumatic injury. I was sent to rehabilitation school and graduated from Lesley College as a storyteller. So I'm not even used to being up here on a mic. I'm used to being down there telling my stories. I told 2 elephant stories when I graduated from Lesley College. They were quite funny, and I enjoyed attending Lesley. This poem is about my class, my aging class that I'm taking at Cape Cod Community College through all. And it's called Everything All at Once or Nothing at All. Everything all at once or nothing at all. If it isn't one thing, it's another. We must realize we are only human. As we age, our bodies start to break. Our hair turns green. Our hair turns gray. Our teeth turn yellow or fall out. Our smile turns to a sad sack. Everything all at once or nothing at all. Better look forward, not downward, or you may fall, or worse, bump into somebody. Everything all at once, knowing nothing at all. Some lose their minds, others can't hear. Some have implants, while others have facelifts. Everything all at once, nothing at all. Titanium is the style for all your broken parts. Look at the bionic woman. She was put back together. Now so can't you. Everything all at once or nothing at all. Look on the bright side. If we can't repair, we won't return. Everything all at once or nothing at all.
Well, I should have given you an introduction when I showed up the first time. My name is Lawrence Brown. I've been teaching at ALL for a couple of years now. I do history classes, I do photography. Next fall, I'm going to be offering a public speaking course in addition to a history course and see what happens with that. Back in 1996, my mother was dying of cancer, and I went to Philadelphia to be with her. Slept in my old bed, and that night I had a very vivid dream of flying. I was in a medieval cathedral. Low afternoon sun sent the light from the stained glass windows and projected it across the floor. Years later, after my mom passed, my wife and I were in the Orkney Islands, and there was a stone cathedral late in the afternoon, and we went in, and it was the place. It was the place. And I want to share with you a lesson called Learning to Fly. In the flaming light of late afternoon, I lay myself down as if I might kiss the carpet that makes a scarlet path through shafts of light stained in colors by the cathedral glass. Huge outstretched hands and faces as the light expands across the marble floor, burnished gray and white. There I fall, pitching down, but in a second's grace on a pillow of air I lie and slide on air like a magic carpet. Head first, like a sinuous arrow, coiling around pews, I wind my way, prostrate on my face, round pillars, up to where pulling my head up round my body flows upstairs and shadow-like up corners, up walls, pulling my head up, arches up spires, and then higher still I turn my face up still more and peeling into air, falling back and back until I'm soaring there. You can do this too. Just fall upon your face, and you'll be caught, and then by grace you will be taught to roll your eyes back and on your magic carpet glide, then pull up and fly through space. Me, I open wide my arms and leaning imperceptibly to the right, my arms out, my back arched, my head back, I tilt marginally right and soar after my right hand in a tight arc. like a shadow in the high dome. Swept past pocketed saints, past pillars, past windows, in the late fire-like light, flashing colors in my face, catching sight of his eyes here, her hands there, leaning, gliding, falling everywhere but down. You'd see me, soaring round and round, spinning in the high air, if you would but come. From what far place am I? If the light fades and I'm falling through empty sky till darkness hides my way. If you could have the choice, would you too fall and learn to fly so I could hear your voice and in these windows see your shining face at home? For God has built no church for me to worship in alone. This concludes what I hope is the first of many gatherings like this and different ones like this too. Thank you all for being part of this, and good night.